My love, I'm back with another video. I wasn't actually planning on filming today, but I'm actually on my way out. But I really wanted to share this because I feel that whenever I plan anything, it doesn't happen. So I'd rather film without planning and just give you the message that I really want to share with you. And it's actually something that came to me like early today. I had some experience, I had a dream that brought something up for me and I'm going to talk about relationships and how they affect your health. That brought something up for me that I realized I thought I had healed it completely, and I think I did, but it still showed me something that was finishing up for me, like a cycle. And then for some reason, it drew me to the eclipses and what was going on in February of 2017. I hadn't actually done any research on this. Like, it literally just came to my mind. This is how channeled messages and how your guides get messages to you, and how you intuitively pick up on things. So I was like, okay, let me look back at February 2017 and see what eclipses were happening. Because I remember a specific eclipse. I remember I was on a beach in Mexico on vacation at the time. And I know there was an eclipse. I remember that very clearly. I just don't remember what eclipse it was. So for some reason I was getting Leo energy. And lo and behold, I Google it. I'm like, oh, what zodiac sign was the eclipse on in February of 2017? And it was in Leo. What did we just have on the 12th of August? A Leo eclipse. And then shortly after that, there was an eclipse in Pisces, which was, I think, a solar eclipse back in 2017. So it was February, the end of February of 2017. So what are we about to have right now this week? I think it's a lunar. Yeah, it's a lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 27th of August. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that is not coincidence. That's not coincidental. There is a cycle being closed up, something, and it kind of went back to the dream that I had this morning, where I woke up really early, probably 6 in the morning, from this dream. And if you're a spiritual person that has these gifts, especially the dream gifts, this if you have seer abilities, or you believe you're into the whole Mamma Mia, I can't even speak today. If you're a high priestess, then you know that from the 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. mark, they are very spiritual dreams, that you get. So anyway, I was like, oh, okay, this was something that it was very meaningful for me. So then this information came through, and I'm like, okay, this is not just me. This is all of us collectively. We are closing some sort of cycle, something that happened, that was going on in your life during February of 2017. Think back at that time. What were you going through emotionally, physically, romantically, whatever was going on, financially, what was going on in your life? And also your birth chart. It matters a lot where Pisces and Leo is in your birth chart. So I saw this and I'm like, oh, well, that is so funny. I had this dream. It led me to that information, and then it led me to this. And then it led me to the whole topic of how romantic relationships affect your physical health. A lot of people, I feel like, don't talk about that too much. And back in 2018, when I ended a 5-year relationship, and really I didn't even end it. It was just abruptly just disappeared. It just went poof. Like God intervened and was like, well, you're done. It's not happening anymore. The person I was in a relationship with just disappeared. And the reason why I want to share a little bit about this story, because it goes in with what I'm talking about, and it goes in with how, and I even made a video yesterday, if you saw it, about how rosacea is a condition, a skin issue that happens because of gut issues. And what causes gut issues is very intense stress, and that could be toxic relationships, not being in the right relationship, not being in the right environment, job, toxic household, whatever it is that's causing you a lot of stress. So romantic relationships affect our physical health on many levels, especially when you go through a major heartbreak. And I went through a major heartbreak back in 2018. I ended a 5-year relationship. We were engaged, we were gonna get married, we were already planning everything. I already had the dress, the ring, you know, everything, you know, we were booking everything. I actually I don't want to make the story too long, but I was actually trying to also get a marriage visa because he lived in the UK, and everything kept getting rejected. Many things started just blocking the path. A lot of things happened with him where like everything that we were trying to do or that I was putting a lot of effort into something that just wasn't working anymore. And I was also doing the job for him, because if you know anything about polarity and feminine and masculine energy, you know, the masculine is the one that should be taking charge and being in a leadership role and going after what he wants. And I feel that I was putting in a lot of work into making this connection work. We were together obviously when I was living in London, but then I had to come back to the US and Chicago, and our relationship just became very difficult. And there was more effort on my part than there was on him, even though eventually we got engaged and we wanted to get married. But anyway, how do I share this story with you without getting into too many details? Because in 2018, and I was going through my Saturn return, I had no idea that I was going through a Saturn return when it was happening. I did not even see the gift or the lesson until many years later. And that is something that you're going to experience in your own life, and you're going to see as well that when you look back at your life or something that was going on in your life, you're going to be like, wow, that was actually a gift, or that's what was going on. Or if you don't even know anything about astrology and you get into astrology, you look back and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Because I didn't actually start studying astrology until about 2021, 2022. And that's when I looked back and I was like, holy shit, I was going through a Saturn return when this breakup happened. And now it makes sense. Now it makes sense why I was not meant to marry him, why everything was shutting down, why nothing was working, why the universe was like, nope. It was slapping my hand. It was like, stop it. Stop it. He's not for you. You're not for him. This is not meant to happen. Let go. Let go. It's like, you know, you're in a relationship and you have this comfortable like connection, you're best friends, and you want to hold on because you like, again, you're best friends and you love this person and you are comfortable with this person and you feel good and you want to make it work. But maybe this person is not the right one for you. They're not your true soulmate, and you're holding on and you won't let go, and you're not fucking, you know, you're resisting to the change. Well, the universe is going to step in and be like, bye. You're going to let go because you're going to let go. So that's what happened to me. Okay. I was refusing to let go until he just disappeared. He didn't even break up with me. He didn't say anything. He just disappeared. And it caused such an insane heartbreak in me. I was already quite heartbroken by many of the things that happened in our relationship throughout the last 2-3 years of the relationship. So, but this was like the icing on the cake. So, the fact that he just disappeared and never broke up with me, never said goodbye, never said nothing. He just disappeared. He never even answered my calls, never answered my messages. He just poof, disappeared. I can't remember too many details on whether he blocked me from Facebook, because, you know, back then Facebook was still kind of a thing. I don't remember that part, but I remember that I was not able to get a hold of him and I had to let go. And it was really challenging. And I went through a massive death portal. And then this happened around, I think, at the end of October, just before my birthday, just before probably Scorpio. It was probably Scorpio season. I don't even know. And it's funny because I'm a Scorpio stellium. Anyway, so that happened. And then at the beginning of December, I ended up going to the hospital like 3 times, I think, that month. I think the first times I went because I had a really bad pelvic pain due to the endometriosis, which is actually a topic that I'm gonna have to share about. And I really want to talk about a lot about this. But I'm still figuring out if I'm gonna share this on here on YouTube or what. Anyway, so I had first gone to the hospital because of that insane pelvic pain, mamma mia. And then I think the last time, because I went to, I think 2 times was because of the pelvic pain, and then the third time was because of really bad chest pain. And when I went that time, that's the one that really comes to my mind, even though womb health is definitely affected by your sexual relationships, because you hold a lot of trauma as well in your womb space, or energetic cords from your past sexual partners. But most specifically this one, I had really bad chest pain and it wouldn't go away. So I went to the hospital, and I remember they started doing all the tests, running everything. And then they came back and they're like, there's something weird with your blood work. We're gonna have to, I'm trying to recollect, because it was quite a while ago. They had to start checking my heart and do like heart monitoring things. I don't know what the test is called. And they said that there was something in the blood that only shows up when there is like damage or something very wrong with your heart. And they were even gonna call in a cardiologist, and they had put me in the severe area of the emergency room. I forgot what that's also called. And so I'm losing my English. So then I was quite concerned. They had to do a CT scan. I think they did 2, or did they do 3? They ended up running blood tests 3 times. I think CT scans they did 2, because the first one also wasn't clear. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because of my emotional state that I was in. I was just not in a good space. I was literally heartbroken. And the grief was so intense, because how could someone that I had loved so much, that I had cared about so much, that had been my best friend, just disappear like out of nowhere? And it was very hard to process. So I'm already overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm feeling all these emotions. I go to the hospital. I'm feeling this. They tell me all of these things. I think one of the reasons why also the tests weren't coming up clear was, again, because of how I was feeling. Because I remember that on the second CT scan that I had to go, I do not like CT scans. If you've ever had one done, and you have felt when they put the dye into your bloodstream, like your body, it feels like you're burning. It is horrendous. I sometimes I wonder if doctors who do this ever have to experiment the exam themselves, because they should, because it's not the most, it's very unpleasant, mamma mia. So I remember I'm like, oh shit, I have to do this again. Why didn't the first test come out clear? I probably was very overwhelmed. I was very scared because of what they said with the first blood test, and they had to repeat the blood test because they're like, they wanted to make sure of what was happening, because they said to me that what was coming up in my blood test is not usual for someone so young. Like, it didn't make sense. And back in 2018, December, I was already 30. I had just turned 30 that November. So I was like, okay. I was like, something's going on. I had not picked up on it like now I have the awareness, but I didn't back then. But still, my intuition was so strong that something in me said, Mayra, you need to, when I was going through the CT scan, you need to start envisioning your happy your dream life, your future, the future that you desire. You need to, when I was laying on that bed and they were putting the dye into my system and everything, I was like, okay, honey, you are going to envision your true soulmate and your happy, I don't want to say ending, but like your happy life, your happy, you know, like romantic life, because I obviously was heartbroken. I literally thought that my romantic life was like a disaster, and I can't believe someone like that did that to me, and blah blah. So I was like, okay, I need to envision a beautiful romantic relationship that actually makes me happy and makes me feel alive and gives me hope that I have a beautiful future, you know, because I'm not trying to fucking die, you know, because what they were saying to me, it seemed like that was the end. Okay, so I started imagining and firing those thoughts in my mind. And now Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Okay, our thoughts, you know, create our reality. So as soon as I changed my thoughts, so when I had just gone into the hospital, I was in negative mode. I was in grief, I was in sadness, I was in depression. But as soon as I got into that second CT scan, I was like, oh, ho, ho, we're gonna change this. We're gonna change this into happiness, into joy, into bliss, and I'm gonna start imagining what I do desire. Well, lo and behold, when I got out of that scan, they're like, oh, you have nothing, you're good. Nothing's wrong, you're fine. And they're like, we don't understand what's going on. So then they ran, obviously, 3 blood tests. They did a second one, and I was all clear, nothing was wrong. They're like, well, that was weird. So then they ran a third one, because they're like, we need to do another third blood test because we don't understand what just happened. So then they did the third blood test. I think they had even given me one of those medications that they give you for your heart. I forgot what they're called. Anyway, they gave me one of those pills. Again, I was still sitting there waiting. I was, I think, in the emergency room for like 12 hours or more. I don't know. By the time the third blood test came out, they were like, you are healthy, you're fine. No, there's nothing wrong with you. And I was able to go home. They never told me why I had the chest pain or why I had those symptoms, nothing. Later on, I can't remember what happened after I went home. I feel that I think I might have still felt maybe a little bit sick, because I remember I ended up going to a primary care doctor. I don't know if it was like a week later or a few days later. I think it was maybe a few days later. Anyway, when I went to go see the primary care and he looked at all the exams that they did at the hospital and the reports and everything, he later came to tell me that I had pneumonia. They didn't tell me that at the hospital. So, but that's not the gift in this isn't so much that I had pneumonia, even though that also explains obviously the symptoms and it explains why I wasn't feeling good. But regardless, and I did tell you how these emotions affect your organs. Now, if you know anything about the meaning of every organ, every organ is ruled by an emotion. You also know and understand that not only does the heart, you know, feel the grief and the heartbreak, but your lungs as well. The lungs are, you know, the organ connected to grief. So because I had this insane amount of unprocessed grief, it made sense that I ended up getting sick and getting pneumonia. And that all these things were showing up in the tests and in the examinations, because this has never happened in my life, ever. I'm a healthy person. And it hasn't happened since, okay? So, gosh, it's really hard to hold the camera like this. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going. So, after that happened, and after I changed the outcome by changing my thoughts, I realized then the power of my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings, even though I still didn't truly understand the whole lesson or the gift in all of this until many years later. And I realized why this relationship had to end, why things had to happen the way that they did, how that was actually a blessing in disguise, and how that heartbreak has actually lingered in my energy field for many, many, many years. it was a heartbreak that was very hard for me to heal, because it was such a devastating thing for me to be with someone in a committed relationship for such a long time. You know, and other people have been longer. Like, I'm not even gonna compare to those who have been in long-term relationships for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and then it ends. But, you know, this was extremely painful for me, especially because of all the things that happened. And I'm not going to get into details of all the things that happened in that relationship and how it caused me so much pain and so much grief. So, and he's a good person. Like, I'm not even going to say that that's why it made it harder to let go or to heal, because he was such a good, like, a kind, loving soul, an incredible man, you know. So of course I saw myself being with him or marrying him or having children or whatever with him. So when all of this happened, or even that someone like him could do something like that, it was very devastating. So anyway, again, I'm telling you this because if you have unprocessed grief from a past relationship, heartbreak, any type of grief that you felt from, you know, the loss of a relationship, it stays in your body, whether that is your heart space, your lungs, your gut, and it will affect your health. And it showed up for me. Like, I ended up getting pneumonia. Like, I ended up having to go to the hospital. Like, I ended up having to, you know, experience all of these things. And it's just crazy because I was going through my Saturn return that December. So it makes sense. And my Saturn return was in Capricorn, and it's in the 12th house. So that also has a lot to do with it. I would always, you know, I would have to make a separate video on Saturn returns and how it would affect you depending on what house it is and sign it is for you. But the 12th house is a heavy one. I'm just saying, because the 12th house is the house of Pisces. So it just makes sense too right now, because we're about to have this eclipse in Pisces. And for me, it's my North Node. So, you know, for you, you know, look at where you have Pisces. If you have any like planets in Pisces, or if you have North Node Pisces, South Node Pisces, whatever, you know, whatever your Pisces placement is and where it is in your chart, and also Leo. But anyway, I'm sharing these things with you because I feel that not many talk about this connection to like romantic relationships and how they truly do affect our physical health, and how emotions affect. It's not even them, right? It's not them, the person, or even the relationship in itself, but it's how you felt, the emotions, the things that came up for you, and the energy that you maybe had together in the connection, the lesson, the whole, you know, I want to say purpose, because that relationship had a purpose and came to transform you in some way. But again, if you don't heal this, it does linger, it does affect you. And I realize how it's affected me all these years. But anyway, I'm gonna have to end the video here because it's already 23 minutes. I'm still trying to figure out how to make these videos as short as possible, but I felt like sharing that with you, especially because of these eclipses that are happening right now, and how maybe right now you're healing something, you're transforming something because something new is coming. A new cycle is beginning. There's some sort of victory, success, abundance, something beautiful is coming in, and all the bad, old, stagnant energy of the past, you need to let it go, and it's literally being cleared with these eclipses, the Leo and the Pisces one. So anyway, un bacio, alla prossima.